Ramadan.
The time is just gone 16 minutes to 5 as we continue with the Iftar Drive this afternoon right here on Salam Media. And the case of Aafia Siddiqui, Dr. Aafia Siddiqui still continues, and it's years and years and years. And there have been so many efforts over the years to get her release. And we've seen attorneys come, we've seen attorneys go as well. And we've seen the Aafia Foundation out in Pakistan making approaches to the government, right up to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, to Foreign Affairs. And there seems to be no end in sight as far as the release of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui goes. But the pressure still needs to be kept on. And we have now learned about her attorney, Marwa Al-Bailey, who is no longer the legal counsel for Dr. Aafia Siddiqui. And we now have human rights attorney, Clive Stafford Smith, who is now the attorney of a record for Dr. Aafia. And we are going across now to be joined by none other than Clive Stafford Smith this afternoon, right here on Salam Media. Clive, welcome to the show, and we do appreciate you taking time out and being with us right here on Salam Media.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Right, Clive, you're now the attorney of record, and we know that Aafia Siddiqui has had many other attorneys who have represented her in the past. And, with your area of expertise, your specialty, human rights, and with the case of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, we know there have been gross violations of her basic rights, of her human rights. So this case, I would say, is right up your alley at this point in time. And having chosen you as the attorney of record to represent her, just your thoughts, Clive?
Well, I should say this. I've spent the last 20 years representing men in Guantanamo Bay. And I speak as an American. I may have a British accent, but I'm American. And, I just have to apologize to all the people and their families who have gone through this. And it's been a real privilege for me representing so many people. I've had 87 clients in Guantanamo, and I'm glad to say that 85 of them are now back home. And I was in Pakistan and meeting with Aafia's really wonderful sister, Fauzia Siddiqui. And she sort of pulled me into going to see Aafia. And look, what a crying shame that this poor woman is in this dreadful prison in Texas. So I saw her in January, and yeah, look, I work for charity only, and I don't ask people to pay me or anything, because really my job is to try to put right what we as Americans have done so manifestly wrong. And it's not going to be easy with Aafia, because it would be far, far easier to get her out if she was in Guantanamo Bay, because that's all politics and no law at all. Where she is now has very little to do with law. She's been convicted. She's gone through her appeals. The American legal system is notoriously disinterested in people who may be totally innocent. I've got a client on death row who's sentenced to death 36 years ago, who's totally innocent. And the US courts have held that that's not relevant to whether he should spend the rest of his life in prison, which is madness. So this is going to be all about politics. And I'm going to go down to Pakistan next week, meet with the relevant people there, and then go to Afghanistan. And I hope meet with the relevant people there and figure out what we can do to create some sort of agreement to bring her back to Pakistan, which, it'll take some work because there's some blockage on the Pakistan end.
Yes, we've had the opportunity of meeting up with Dr. Fauzia Siddiqui in South Africa, as well as part and parcel of the global campaign for calling for the release of Aafia. We've had
Which,
many
thank you very much, by the way. Let me just thank you for what you're doing, because this is about the court of public opinion much more than the court of law. So frankly, you're more important than I am, certainly.
Well, we're doing our best, at the end of the day. When I look at Salam Media as well, our ethics and our mottos are all built on humanitarian journalism. And this is a humanitarian story that requires attention. Just going back to, obviously, January was the time when you had the opportunity to see Aafia Siddiqui. If you could just give us some sort of an idea or an overview as to in what condition is Dr. Aafia Siddiqui? Is she in the right frame of mind? Is she got the, physically, mentally? What is her condition?
Well, look, you've got to remember that this is a woman who was abducted from 2003 to 2008 with 3 children, one of whom was an infant, one of whom was 2 years old, and one of whom was 5 years old. The people who abducted her managed to kill the infant by dropping it. And so that was one of her children she witnessed being killed right in front of her. Then they took her daughter away and forcibly fostered her daughter into an American family for 5 years. So poor Aafia had to deal with that. Then she and her son were held for 5 years themselves, and she was in Bagram. And I plan to go to Bagram again, hopefully in a couple of weeks, just so we can identify exactly where she was and what happened to her. And then when she's set free, she's then shot twice by the Americans, who make up this ridiculous story that she was being held by them and she wasn't in handcuffs. That's implausible. A soldier had left a gun on the ground. That's totally implausible. She reaches for the gun supposedly, and she doesn't shoot anyone, but they shoot her. And then they accuse her of attempted murder of a federal official. And so all of this stuff, what she's been through, and, I've been to Guantanamo 42 times. I've seen more of Guantanamo than any other lawyer by far, I should imagine. And, I'll say right here that Aafia is more traumatized by what she's been through, the torture she's been through, the abuse she's been through, losing her children in that way, than any of the prisoners I've represented in Guantanamo Bay. So it's not surprising that she's in shocking state. And the prison is an awful place. It's called FMC Caswell, which is meant to be a federal medical center, but it's a maximum security prison. And, we talked for 80 minutes and she told me about the horrors that she's going through. So I'm hoping that we'll get Fauzia in to see her in June. I'll go there with her and try and get her in to see her sister. We finally got a visa for Fauzia to come to America. And I hope that'll help encourage Aafia. What really encouraged her was I told her all about, what a legend she is in Pakistan. And she had felt that no one was out there supporting her. And I think it was a huge relief to her to learn that people very much are supporting her. So we need to keep on doing that, obviously. And then we need to take the steps to try to get her a compassionate release back to Pakistan. And I don't think it'll happen overnight. I think it'll take work. But, this is what this is all about, obviously.
Well, also, when one looks at Dr. Fauzia Siddiqui herself, and she's been relentless in her efforts, and she's done so much over the years. She's tried. She's traveled around the world. She's come to South Africa. She's taken this campaign right across the entire world for the release of a sister, to create the awareness, to highlight the plight of a sister. And she's done just so much. And together with that, having to raise Aafia's 2 children who are grown up now. And then in the process, the mother, I had the opportunity years ago of actually talking to the mother. She conversed with me in Urdu, and we had a translator as well, and we spoke to the mother on radio as well, and then subsequently losing her mother. So it hasn't been easy at all for the Siddiqui family, but together with that, all the presentations she's met with prime ministers in the past, she's met with people like Imran Khan, she's met with the latest prime minister of Pakistan, the ambassadors to the United States of America, so many people engaged with media, and all of this, Clive, just how much can one person actually take?
Well, look, first, let's say this clearly. If I ever get in trouble, I want Fauzia Siddiqui to be my sister, because she has been phenomenal in supporting Aafia. And words just simply can't express how fabulous she's been. There are 2 sides to this. We need to get through to all the people on the Pakistan end, and Fauzia has got to most of them. Um, but we also need to get through to the people on the US end. And so right now, I think that the blockage comes from certain people in Pakistan who are very afraid that there are things that are going to come out when Aafia is released that's going to embarrass them. We need to reassure those people that actually that's not true. We're not in this for revenge. We're in this to get Aafia home. And we're not going to spend the next 20 years suing everyone who was involved in it. But then on the other side, we have to get to the Americans. And that's, I think, a role I can certainly play along with colleagues in the United States. And we need to do this while Biden is president, because let's face it, I wouldn't want to be trying to deal with this with the President Donald Trump. So this is a fairly urgent thing. And that's why, I'm going to head down to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and then we'll go to America and we'll see what we can do together. But certainly Fauzia Siddiqui is the greatest ally one can have.
Yes. Have you had any engagement with any of the Pakistani authorities, like, for instance, the embassy, the Pakistan embassy in the United States of America, the ambassador to the United States, consular officials? Because I'm almost certain they would also have access to Aafia, but also at the same time to be able to highlight her plight, or whatever attention she may require from a medical perspective, from a psychological perspective. I mean, she is their citizen. She is a Pakistani citizen, and they certainly have a responsibility to make sure that her well-being and her needs are also met.
Well, certainly I have lots of good contacts in Pakistan, and indeed I've represented many Pakistanis. And, I've worked very closely, for example, with Imran Khan, who I've known for many years, on the whole issue of assassination by drones. And yeah, I don't think there's a single politician in Pakistan who's not on this side, because they know which side their bread's buttered. And if Fauzia Siddiqui can get 1 million people out on a march in Islamabad, then all politicians need to be on that side. So that's not so hard. We've got a really good judge who's taking this seriously in a case in Islamabad, who has ordered the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to give us all the assistance that we need. And I think the minister is on side as well. So I don't see any problem there. I certainly plan to go see the consular officials in Houston when I get to America in late May. So none of that's an issue. I think the real problem is that there are some people, what Pakistan's like. It's not always run entirely by the politicians. There are people in the military, there are people in the ISI who play a significant role. And again, they're not our enemy. We just need to get to talk to them, and I plan to try to when I'm in Pakistan, to reassure everyone that we're all on the same side to get this daughter of Pakistan back. And, yes, we've got all the contacts we need, and we just need everyone to do the right thing. And then we've got to get the Americans to do the right thing. And I don't see that as being impossible. There are various ways of looking at that. The easiest, obviously, is a quid pro quo, where we exchange Aafia for someone else. The obvious candidate for that is Dr. Shakil Afridi, who was allegedly involved in the murder of Osama bin Laden. But who knows? If they don't like that, tell us someone else. I don't care, as long as we can get through to something that satisfactorily gets Aafia back. But we do, and as you say, we need help in the meantime too, to get her the help that she needs. And we have got a crowdfunder going on that, if anyone is taking your fabulous advice, which is to be generous during Ramadan. There's a crowdfunder in Aafia's name just to fund the expenses of some of this stuff, because we need to get mental health experts in, we need to get physical experts in, health experts, and so on and so forth. And we need to, be able to fly the people around who can help us.
Well, Clive, obviously that appeal will still go out in terms of the fundraiser, because I think it's absolutely important, it's absolutely critical. And I must say that with Dr. Fauzia and her first trip, and even during her second trip, South Africans very, very passionate about Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, about the case, and wherever she went, basically it was a full house, whatever functions, whatever events were held to raise funds for Aafia. So we're not short of that here in South Africa. And as I mentioned, there is a great deal of interest, there is a lot of passion, and at the same time, a lot of concern on the well-being as far as Dr. Aafia Siddiqui is concerned. So from time to time, we at Salam Media, we do provide the necessary coverages and talking to people like yourselves. And I'm sure at some point in time, we certainly will touch base again, Clive. But for now, I must thank you. I do appreciate you taking time out and talking to us right here on Salam Media.
Okay, thanks very much.
Please take care. Clive Stafford Smith with us out of the joining us, and he is now the attorney of record representing Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, which brings us straight on to 5 p.m. And we're going to go for a break. We'll come back. We'll be joined by Sheikh Inayet Wadee.